He demanded that they turn over this document. This is a very crucial piece of our investigation. Christopher Wray said this guy was credible. Chuck Grassley wanted us to interview the guy. That's why McCarthy said that. That's why Jim Jordan said that. I never said he was a crucial part of the investigation. I said, I want to know. No, I said.
I've often said that shamelessness is the superpower of elected MAGA Republicans. And if anybody anywhere still has any doubts about that whatsoever, they need only look at this CNN interview with disgraced MAGA Republican chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, whose lies and hypocrisy were exposed to his face on live TV, and he doesn't give a damn. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, we have several clips to talk about in this video. James Comer is someone that we've discussed extensively because he was the grand inquisitor of the Biden impeachment effort. He was the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. He will almost certainly be the chairman of the House Oversight Committee in this next Congress. And he led the impeachment effort. This was the one thing that the MAGA Republican majority in the House of Representatives dedicated their political capital to throughout all of 2023 and most of 2024. Not working with Democrats or even their fellow Republicans in the Senate to deliver results for their constituents, materially beneficial results for their constituents. It was all about screwing President Biden by way of Hunter Biden. That's all it was. And if you remember, throughout that entire impeachment effort, we covered how in public, in hearings, and even in interviews on right-wing media, including Fox, by the way, Comer was regularly shamed and humiliated for his bumbling impeachment effort, for promising more than he delivered, for being contradicted time and time again, for stepping on all the rakes. Well, he's doubling down on this, okay? For the context for this, and we'll get into it, is that the so-called smoking gun, well, one of many, because the Republicans said there were many smoking guns. This is the smoking gun. No, this is the smoking gun. No, here's the real smoking gun. A crucial piece of the investigation was the testimony, the allegations made by a confidential informant named Alexander Smirnov, who supposedly had information implicating both President Biden and Hunter Biden. And MAGA Republicans made a big damn deal about it. Oh, this is it. We got him now, boys. Well, it turns out that guy actually pled guilty to misinformation, to lying about President Biden and Hunter Biden, and he pled guilty after being investigated by the FBI. Another absolute embarrassment for MAGA Republicans, and in a sane world with a sane electorate, the death knell of James Comer's career. So, given this recent news about the guilty plea of a guy that James Comer swore was a crucial piece of evidence, a crucial part of the investigation, Comer's confronted on this, and his lies are shameless.
Speaker McCarthy had a phone call with Director Wray. He demanded that they turn over this document. This is a very crucial piece of our investigation.
The most corroborating evidence we have is that 1023 form from this highly credible, confidential human source.
And even your colleague, Jason Smith, we should point out, tweeted that the informant's phony testimony, now phony we know, to the FBI was a smoking gun. Do you regret playing this FBI informant up at the time at all, even if you say you didn't ultimately rely on him?
I didn't play it up, and we asked everyone. Bob
but you
Woodward
said it was a crucial part of the investigation.
Well, it was. Everything was a crucial part of the investigation. I think the bank records are the most crucial part that show the Bidens took in $27 million from our adversaries around the world. They took in $8 million in loans that they never repaid back. That's $35 million. And according to the Irish whistleblowers, they never paid a penny of taxes on it. That's the crucial part of the investigation.
So I'll just say, just a quick fact check. So he's doing the Bidens, plural. That's doing a lot of heavy lifting here. He has no evidence, none, that President Biden engaged in any sort of corrupt activity or benefited financially at all. Now, he's saying, well, Hunter Biden and Joe Biden trafficked on Joe Biden's name. They financially benefited. Okay, that's nepotism. The Trumps are even more guilty of that. But that's not an impeachable offense against the guy with the name. You would have to prove that Joe Biden did something criminal or corrupt on their behalf, and you have no evidence. That's why he's saying not Joe Biden, but the Bidens. See, he does this. It's just giving me flashbacks to all of 2023 or 2024. You mean to tell me that you are going to impeach Joe Biden for Hunter Biden trying to cash in on his father's name without proving that Joe Biden aided and abetted and corruptly influenced behaviors to make that possible? I digress. Let's continue.
We would interview anyone that claimed they had information. Christopher Wray said this guy was credible. Chuck Grassley wanted us to interview the guy. That's why McCarthy said that. That's why Jim Jordan said that. I never said he was a crucial part of the investigation. I said I want to know. No, I said I want to know. I want to know what this guy told the FBI.
So, do you hear that? I never said that he or his information were a crucial part of the investigation. And the host is like, we just played you the clip doing that. Again, as a reminder.
Demanded that they turn over this document. This is a very crucial piece of our investigation.
I mean, set aside what Jim Jordan and other prominent MAGA Republicans as part of this Biden witch hunt also said, we have Comer on tape saying the very thing that he now just said he never said. He's a liar, and his lies are shameless, but he doesn't care because he won. His party won. They're not obligated to be beholden to consistency or truth. What did they care? They're not incentivized to tell the truth. They're not incentivized to be consistent. As a matter of fact, you could probably make a compelling argument. They are politically incentivized to be as inconsistent and hypocritical as possible because it makes it easier for them to win elections. So again, what's the context for this? Well, ex-FBI informant pleads guilty to lying about Joe and Hunter Biden. Alexander Smirnov admits lying about Biden's links to fake bribery scheme that played a key role in impeachment effort. A former FBI informant pled guilty on Monday to lying about a phony bribery scheme purportedly involving Joe Biden and his son Hunter that became central to an attempt to impeach the president in Congress. Smirnov entered his plea to a felony charge in connection with the bogus story, along with a tax evasion charge stemming from a separate indictment accusing him of concealing millions of dollars of income. An attorney for Smirnov, 44, declined to comment after the hearing in the LA federal court. Prosecutors and defense have agreed to recommend a sentence of between 4 and 6 years in prison when he is sentenced next month. Smirnov will get credit for the time he has served since his February arrest on charges that he told his FBI handler that executives from the Ukrainian energy company Burisma had paid Joe Biden and Hunter Biden $5 million each around 2015. Smirnov had been an informant for more than a decade when he made the explosive allegations about the Bidens in June 2020 after, quote, expressing bias in reference to Joe Biden's ultimately successful presidential campaign that year, prosecutors said. Smirnov had only routine business dealings with Burisma starting in 2017, according to court documents. An FBI field office investigated the allegations and recommended the case be closed in August 2020, according to charging documents. No evidence has emerged that Joe Biden acted corruptly or accepted bribes as president or in his previous office as vice president, which he was from 2009 to 2017. While Smirnov's identity was not publicly known before the indictment, his claims played a major part in the Republican effort in Congress to investigate the president and his family and help spark a House impeachment inquiry into Biden. Before Smirnov's arrest, Republicans had demanded that the FBI release the unredacted form documenting the unverified allegations. They were always unverified. That's so important. The FD 1023 form, unverified allegations from the beginning. So Comer and the MAGA Republicans should have known that they were potentially playing with fire here because it wasn't like the allegations were corroborated. And now he's pled guilty to lying about them in the first place. During a September 2023 conversation with investigators, Smirnov also claimed the Russians probably had recordings of Hunter Biden because a hotel in Ukraine's capital where he stayed was wired and under their control. Information he said was passed along to him by 4 high-level Russian officials. But Hunter Biden had never traveled to Ukraine, according to Smirnov's indictments. Smirnov claimed to have contact with Russian intelligence-affiliated officials and told authorities after his arrest this year that, quote, officials associated with Russian intelligence were involved in passing a story about Hunter Biden. So, there you have it. An absolute embarrassment for James Comer. Now, we have other clips to play because James Comer's shamelessness didn't just extend to this part of the CNN interview, to be very clear. But in a sane world with a sane electorate paying attention, this would be it for Comer's credibility. Wait a minute. You pursued an impeachment effort against the sitting president based in large part on the smoking gun, crucial evidence provided by a man who has pled guilty to lying about that particular person on behalf of Russian intelligence? Imagine if the shoe were on the other foot, what James Comer would be saying if Jamie Raskin had done something similar about Donald Trump. And I'll also remind you that it was one clown show after another, one rake stepping after another, and then in the end, the Biden impeachment effort went out with a whimper, not a bang, But James Comer still swears Joe Biden committed the most impeachable, the most obviously impeachable offenses in the history of the United States of America. But then he wouldn't actually recommend impeachment, an actual impeachment against President Biden, even though his party was in control of Congress, in control of the House of Representatives. So wait a minute. You mean to tell me that your party has the votes, in theory, if everybody votes, to impeach President Biden? You say President Biden has committed the most obviously impeachable offenses in the history of the country, but you're not going to bring a vote? That's interesting. That'd be like a prosecutor saying, yeah, we have this person dead to rights. We have all the evidence here. It was lawfully obtained. It's a slam dunk case, but we're not going to bring any charges. Why would you do that? Something's not adding up. The reason is because the case against Biden is so objectively weak. Comer wasn't confident that he could get even his own fellow Republicans to vote for him. That's an embarrassment. But he doesn't care. Look at this dumbass just smile. He doesn't care. Why should he? He and his party are actively rewarded for their lies and their hypocrisies. So they're further incentivized to continue. And speaking of their hypocrisies, later on in that interview on CNN, the topic turned to the incoming Trump administration and potential corruption and conflicts of interest, and whether or not Trump should divest himself of his multi-billion-dollar businesses. We're going to play these clips and unpack it together, but brace yourselves, because Comer's hypocrisy is just really something here.
Important because you are chairman of the Oversight Committee. So far, President-elect Trump has not vowed to divest from his business interests like he did the first time around. Do you think he should?
Well, I think that he's been transparent. The problem that we had with the Bidens, they never were transparent with where their money came from. We know, Joe, that Donald Trump owns properties in foreign countries. We know what he owns in the United States. I think the American people knew that when they voted to re-elect. So as long as I think the president's honest with the American people, I think the American people will be satisfied with it. If we come find out that he's got a secret offshore account and he's doing business with the Chinese on something no one knew about, then I think there'll be a problem up here. But right now, it seems like everything that's come out business related with Trump is a transparent process.
Just a note, though, I just have to be factual here. President Biden does share his tax returns every year. We do know it's important because you are.
So you see the double standard and the hypocrisy on full display. Wait a minute. You care about the purported corruption of President Biden. You failed to prove it after 2 years. Hunter Biden is not an elected official. I don't know why he's being held to a higher standard than the president-elect, your cult leader, Donald Trump. But again, that's how it works. Hunter Biden, as far as Republicans are concerned, Trump should be held to the lowest possible standard. Everybody. Liberals, progressives, Republicans, senators, congresspeople, Supreme Court justices, literally everybody should be held to a higher standard than the leader of the Republican Party, the former president of the United States, the man who was about to become president of the United States. So we should relentlessly investigate Hunter Biden for years, not just in the House, but in the Senate and by the Department of Justice of both Donald Trump and President Biden. But Donald Trump, he should never be scrutinized. It's transparent. Well, ethics requirements and tradition dictate that the President of the United States should divest himself from his businesses so as to not only engage in corrupt activity, so as to corruptly financially reward himself, but to even avoid the appearance that he might do so. Why President Jimmy Carter had to divest himself, had to sell off his peanut farm. Meanwhile, Donald Trump is involved with multi-billion-dollar businesses that directly benefit him, and he didn't divest himself from his businesses in term one. He didn't willingly return his tax returns, even though, again, that's tradition, and he swore to do so. He lied. Now he's doing neither of these things in this term. He hasn't given his tax returns. He hasn't promised to divest himself of his businesses. And James Comer doesn't give a damn. Well, it's transparent. Well, no, actually, it's not. That's the whole point. If it were transparent, Trump would have volunteered gleefully his tax returns in the 2016 campaign, the 2020 campaign, and the 2024 campaign. He didn't. He would divest himself of his businesses as well. Well, basically what James Comer is saying, and we got another clip to play, is that the American people know that Donald Trump is corrupt, that he's a businessman, that he's not going to divest himself from his businesses. So that's transparency right there. But where's the evidence of that? Where is the evidence that the American people, show me a poll that says the American people love the fact that Donald Trump has used the presidency to enrich himself. The polls that I've seen show that when questions of ethics and corruption are concerned, Trump tends to poll much worse than his Democratic counterparts. The polls show that more Americans think that Donald Trump is corrupt than Joe Biden, that Donald Trump is more corrupt than Kamala Harris. So it seems to me, and maybe the number, I agree, the number should be 100%, but it seems to me that a majority of Americans don't like Donald Trump's obvious corruption. Now, you could say, well, I still voted for him. And I would say, yeah, it's frustrating, but it could also be not entirely mutually exclusive to the fact that the American people had higher concerns. But that doesn't mean that corruption isn't a concern and that you're not obligated to treat that concern seriously. But James Comer's like, no, corruption or potential corruption or fake corruption is only a matter worth examining when it's a Democrat. Democrats. Hunter Biden, again, a non-public official, somebody who's never served in public office, or at least not in his father's administration. That's somebody we should relentlessly scrutinize. But the president of the United States, he's got a little R next to his name. And people knew he was corrupt when they elected him, so he's free to be as corrupt as possible. How does that make sense, James? It doesn't. But he can lie with impunity. He can be hypocritical with impunity because he won. And people, unfortunately, to the extent that they care, don't care enough to punish him and his peers. One more clip.
President Biden does share his tax returns every year. We do know, we do see that. But just quickly, do you have any concern if he doesn't divest about future President Trump using public office to enrich himself and his family? If he doesn't divest, would that concern you?
I think the most important thing is transparency. And with respect to tax records, I come from a banking background. Tax records don't mean anything. If you want to know whether someone's doing something corrupt or not, get their bank records, because bank records don't lie. People cheat on their taxes all the time. The most important thing is the bank records.
Did Trump release it? Wait a minute. Oh my God. I'm an idiot. I'm such an idiot. Well, by your logic, James, Donald Trump releases bank records? You calling for Donald Trump to release his bank record, James? Oh, you're not? Then what the hell are you talking about? See, it's all about transparency. Well, here are ways in which President Biden's been transparent. No, it's not good enough. You need bank records. Should Donald Trump release his bank records? No, that's different. Because it is. Shut up. So pathetic.
I think as long as President Trump is transparent, I think the American people will give him a pass on his business activity. But if it ever comes out that they've got secret deals or whatever, then that could potentially be a problem, obviously, moving down.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. So what I hear you saying is he doesn't need to divest as long as he's transparent from all these different business ventures, real estate, Bible selling, NFTs, so forth.
I think transparent.
President Biden.
Which I got to say, the CNN host treating him with a kid's glove should be like, that's not a standard you would ever accept in any other person or any other political party. Certainly hasn't been the standard for decades, if not centuries. Where the hell are you pulling this from? And by the way, even know how he's hedging. Well, if Donald Trump was involved in a secret deal with our foreign adversary, China, that might potentially be a problem. Maybe, depending on the day. Standard shifts, but he doesn't care. There's a reason why he's comfortable going on CNN despite the shellacking he got in 2023 and for the most part of 2024. He won. His party won. What does he have to fear of a critical media? And listen, to be fair, I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't have a point in the sense that, is this a high priority for the American people? Not enough. It might. The American people generally, at least in theory, they don't like corruption. And maybe they have to be reminded of just how unprecedentedly corrupt Donald Trump is as a political actor. But that's the reality. It's not about a moral standard. It's not about tradition. It's literally, he's giving the game away. It's about what can he get away with and still win elections. Donald Trump doesn't need to produce his tax returns, his bank records, divest himself from his business, because at the end of the day, he can not do those things and still get elected. That's the standard. That's the benchmark, which is why I say, folks, the only way to really stick it to these Republicans, the only way to really get their attention is to kick their asses in elections, every election in every jurisdiction, until they tap out, until they cry uncle, until they say, we were corrupt, we were hypocritical, we were dishonest, the Trump era is over, we promise that we will comport with the same standards that we impose on everybody else. That's it. Shaming, mocking even, these things can feel good to us. There's a reason I shame and mock people like Jim Comer here. But the only way to really get their attention is to beat them relentlessly in elections. And until that happens, you can expect more of this shit. And that's dangerous. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.